economic force. Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like. And it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada.
I think fascinating because it's not just Canada, right? Some other countries are also reviewing their contracts to buy these very expensive fighter jets from the U.S. over trade concerns.
The United States has cautioned Canada against backing out of its purchase of American-made F-35 fighter jets, warning it of potential fallout if the deal is scrapped.
For years, the Gripen was brushed off as a lightweight contender, a smaller aircraft in a world ruled by giants. Yet today, it's forcing powerful nations to rethink what defines a truly great fighter jet. Sweden, a nation with only a fraction of the defense budget of the United States, has built a machine that rivals the most expensive aircraft in the sky. This isn't luck. It's precision, strategy, and independence woven into design. The Gripen isn't just a weapon. It's a statement that challenges the old rules of military dominance. For decades, Canada had been searching for a replacement for its aging CF-18 fighter jets, relics of the Cold War that had served far beyond their intended lifespan. At first, the decision seemed obvious. The United States was already promoting its prized creation, the F-35 Lightning II. Marketed as a pinnacle of air combat technology, the F-35 was sleek, stealthy, and astronomically expensive. It was more than an aircraft. It was a symbol of power. Few imagined any alternative could compete with it. Yet, across the Atlantic, in a small Scandinavian country without global military reach or vast spending, a quiet revolution was underway. Inside Saab's laboratories, Swedish engineers were building something different, leaner, smarter, and far more adaptable. The result was a Gripen. When Saab presented its proposal to Canada, it immediately stood out. Other jets required billions in new infrastructure, specialized bases, and complex maintenance systems. The Gripen offered something radical. Simplicity paired with intelligence.it could land and take off from ordinary highways, refuel within minutes, and operate effectively in the freezing Arctic conditions that define much of Canada's geography. Even more significant, it offered full national control. There would be no dependence on American authorization for software updates, spare parts, or maintenance schedules. For a country that valued sovereignty, that independence was priceless, the Gripen concept seemed tailor-made for Canada, a nation stretching across vast tundras, mountains, and forests. It could operate from rural highways or remote strips without massive air bases. Maintenance demands were minimal, requiring only a small team of technicians. For a brief time, it seemed that Canada might choose a jet perfectly aligned with its landscape and defense philosophy, one that emphasized flexibility and self-reliance in an uncertain world. But Washington was paying close attention, and silence was never an option. The idea of a key NATO ally choosing a Swedish jet over the American flagship was politically unthinkable. What began as subtle diplomatic hints soon turned into direct pressure. U.S. officials invoked NATO's interoperability standards and the importance of maintaining strategic alignment. Beneath the polite tone was a clear message. Canada was expected to buy the F-35. Years of debate followed, public hearings, technical reviews, political arguments. But the outcome became increasingly predictable. Canada ultimately announced it would purchase the F-35. Washington celebrated the decision as a reaffirmation of alliance unity. In Stockholm, the response was quiet but resolute. Sweden had lost a sale, but not its vision. Saab continued refining the Gripen, preparing for the moment when the world would finally understand what it had built. That moment arrived sooner than anyone expected. During a NATO exercise in Europe, the new Gripen E, the latest evolution of Sweden's fighter, flew alongside the Eurofighter Typhoon, France's Rafale, and America's F-35. Observers anticipated a respectable performance from the Swedes, but what followed left them stunned at in a series of electronic warfare tests. The Gripen E outperformed nearly every competitor. It disrupted radar systems, confused missile guidance, and even blinded targeting sensors of rival aircraft. Reports described it as a phantom in the sky, impossible to track, harder to hit, and always one step ahead. One NATO officer said flying against the Gripen felt like facing an invisible enemy. It wasn't the fastest jet in the exercise, nor the most expensive, but it had mastered something far more valuable, the art of deception. While most modern fighters rely on avoiding radar detection, the Gripen manipulated radar itself. It created false echoes, fed enemy systems with deceptive signals, and conjured phantom targets that didn't exist. It transformed stealth from a hidden feature into an active strategy that in an era of trillion-dollar defense budgets, Sweden had built an affordable genius. Its performance during the exercises challenged assumptions about what modern air superiority truly meant. When word of the Gripen's success reached Canada, it sparked quiet unease among decision-makers. The aircraft they had once dismissed as a second-tier option was outperforming some of the world's most advanced machines. Questions began to surface in Ottawa. If Sweden could achieve such capability with a fraction of the funding, had Canada made a mistake by committing billions to a fighter that required constant U.S. oversight? The contrast between the two aircraft extended beyond cost. The F-35 demanded specialized facilities, tightly controlled logistics, and continuous software management, all supervised by the United States. Every update, every diagnostic check, every maintenance cycle ran through American systems. The Gripen, by contrast, was designed for autonomy. It could be refueled, rearmed, and airborne again in under 10 minutes, even from a stretch of rural highway, using a small ground crew and minimal equipment. For a smaller nation seeking operational independence, that efficiency represented freedom. What Sweden achieved with the Gripen wasn't just an engineering feat, it was a strategic philosophy made real. It proved that innovation and adaptability could outweigh sheer size and spending power. In a world where military dominance often comes with dependency, the Gripen stood as proof that true strength lies in independence. As nations like Canada confront the realities of cost, control, and sovereignty in modern defense, Sweden's quiet success story continues to echo, a reminder that sometimes the smartest power isn't the loudest one in the sky. Every element of the Gripen's design reflected a single philosophy: independence. Sweden's goal was never to build the most luxurious or intimidating fighter jet, but the most resilient and self-sufficient one. As reports from NATO exercises spread, the Gripen quickly became the focus of attention across Europe. Nations searching for affordable yet advanced defense systems began looking at Sweden with newfound respect. The irony for Canada was hard to ignore. A country long celebrated for its independent spirit had chosen the most expensive and dependent aircraft available, while a small Scandinavian nation had built a jet that embodied freedom and self-reliance. Public reaction in Canada grew sharper as analysts and politicians revisited the controversial decision. Editorials began to question whether aligning too closely with Washington had cost the country not only money, but its defense flexibility. Commentators pointed out that every maintenance check and software update on the F-35 required clearance from the U.S. Department of Defense. That detail hit a nerve. For a growing number of Canadians, the realization that their Air Force was tied so tightly to another country's control felt like a loss of sovereignty disguised as progress. Meanwhile, Sweden's success only grew louder. The Gripen became a model for nations striving to balance advanced technology with independence. It proved that a smaller country could achieve innovation without surrendering control to global powers. Its message was clear: true strength comes not from dependence, but from control. The jet symbolized a new way of thinking about defense, one rooted in self-sufficiency rather than the politic of alliance obligations. For Canada, that message was increasingly uncomfortable. The F-35 deal represented access to cutting-edge technology and stronger ties with Washington, but it came with a price that extended far beyond the billions spent. Every mission, every upgrade, and every modification will be overseen through American systems. In contrast, the Gripen offered complete autonomy at a fraction of the cost. The debate over whether Canada had made the right choice refused to fade. Canada's decision reflected the difficult balance between politics, technology, and national pride. Yet beneath the surface of contracts and diplomacy lay a deeper truth. Sweden had managed to challenge the world's military giants not through sheer might, but through intelligence and innovation. The Gripen demonstrated that creativity and strategic design could level the playing field even against the largest defense industries on Earth. And that realization may have stung Canada more than anything. A nation once known for its independent foreign policy now appeared to have traded part of that identity for security guarantee from Washington. This was not just a procurement decision. It marked the beginning of a larger debate that would shape the defense community, a storm that would redefine the future of aviation. The rise of the Gripen was no longer a whisper in defense circles. It had become a movement. As the Swedish fighter began appearing in NATO briefings as a standout performer, admiration turned into open discussion. Ottawa could no longer remain silent. Lawmakers expressed frustration behind closed doors, journalists filled headlines with comparisons, and public opinion began to shift. Canadians wanted answers. Why had their government overlooked a jet now being praised across Europe? No official dared to admit it publicly, but the sentiment was clear. Canada had made the wrong call. Defense experts who once championed the F-35 as the obvious choice began softening their positions. On television panels and in newspaper columns, they acknowledged that, strategically speaking, the Gripen made far more sense for Canada's geography and defense needs. It was cheaper to maintain, better suited to Arctic conditions, and didn't demand costly infrastructure. While the F-35 required massive bases and specialized facilities, the Gripen could take off from highways or frozen runways deep in the north. It could land, refuel, and be back in the air within minutes, a critical advantage for a country spanning rugged, icy terrain. Inside government offices, senior officers and analysts began admitting what many had quietly suspected. Canada had not just spent too much money, it had surrendered a degree of control. The F-35 was an extraordinary piece of engineering, with unmatched stealth and sensor technology. But Canada's priorities were different. It wasn't only about having the most advanced aircraft. It was about having one that could operate freely and independently. Sweden had understood that principle from the start. Saab didn't design the Gripen to be the flashiest or the most expensive fighter. It was engineered to give smaller nations autonomy, to prove that sovereignty could thrive even without the backing of a superpower. The Gripen represented more than military hardware. It embodied a philosophy that intelligence and strategy could outweigh dependence and politics. Canada's purchase of the F-35 effectively placed it within the U.S. defense ecosystem, subject to layers of oversight and approval. Sweden's approach, by contrast, offered a vision of freedom. The Gripen could operate without foreign permission, function from almost anywhere, and be maintained by local crews using basic equipment. It wasn't just a jet, it was a declaration of independence in metal and motion. When Saab final test footage of the Gripen surfaced online, its silver frame slicing through northern skies, its engines echoing over the frozen lakes of Scandinavia, it represented more than a technical milestone. For Canada, it became a haunting symbol of what might have been. A fighter that captured the world's imagination, a machine born from self-reliance and ingenuity, was flying proof that independence need not be sacrificed for power. Today, as the light of the Gripen's afterburners faded into the Arctic dusk,